welcome, my friends. Yes, this is a live podcast of Flipside Live coming to you bright and early on this Sunday morning, February the 2nd. It's a little after 5 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. As I explained in my previous podcast, one of the benefits that I am impressed with on this particular medium called Spreaker.com is that unlike conventional terrestrial or internet network radio, you are relegated to a specific time of day when your show is scheduled. However, we live in a completely different world today than we've ever lived before. I think it's pretty safe to say that we are living the Chinese curse of may you live in interesting times. The news this Sunday morning, I think, is of particular importance. There are two events unfolding as we speak. One of them is near and dear to my heart. The other one is the possible global implications of a return to the Cold War. And let me direct you to my website at robbienull.com, where you will find a article via King World News by Paul Craig Roberts, who is decidedly concerned about somebody doing something stupid and in this world that we live today, the possibilities of somebody doing something stupid are pretty good. He feels that the world could right now be on the edge of a nuclear war. Eric King asked him about his feelings about the events unfolding in the Ukraine. And his response was that there may well be a confrontation at some point with Russia. America cannot win that confrontation. He adds that right now the European Union is more concerned with having to deal with a regime of ultra-nationalists. The European Union is trying to stamp out nationalism and put all of the governments of the member states under the EU government in Brussels. Sovereignty and ultra-nationalism is the last things the EU wants to see right now. As I said, this is a development of shall we say, significance. How it plays out, I guess, is not dissimilar to the events leading up to the Cuban Missile Crisis. I mean, we've got all these news stories that in large part I also look at as some form of distraction. That's because I have this idea that there's some sort of black swan event out there that is fast approaching, and that black swan, according to Jim Embry, is a flock of black swans. So trying to identify which black swan it could be, your guess is as good as mine. But obviously the Ukrainian situation could quite easily go in a direction that no one has as yet explained fully. However, there is a much bigger story, in my humble opinion, that has developed over this weekend. Now, this is a time when I have to once again remind many of you that have listened to my programs over the years that we have given an inordinate amount of time to the subject of whether or not there is a coordinated effort to rig the gold price. Besides the work that is done by Bill Murphy and the rest of the folks over at the Gold Antitrust Action Committee, folks like Ted Butler have produced documented evidence of manipulation, and he's presented them to the applicable regulators in the United States, whose job is solely to oversee the honesty and integrity of the financial markets. Not only has he presented them with documented evidence, but he has introduced them to a London trader by the name of Andrew Maguire, who confirmed beyond all reasonable doubt of the manipulation that takes place in the gold and silver markets. As a matter of fact, to prove his point, he told the committee he was testifying in front of exactly what the gold and silver market would do the following day based on the information he had at his disposal. One of the most frustrating things for myself personally is that over the years, numerous well-respected economists have spoken about the manipulation of financial assets, whether they be gold, silver, aluminum, copper, LIBOR, currencies. Nobody paid too much attention to their many warnings. And as a matter of fact, to be honest with you, a large majority of people that, as soon as they hear stories about gold manipulation, they immediately relegate you to the folks over at the lunatic fringe who also believe in aliens and flying spaceships. Even with all the evidence that has been produced, of late, I was amazed at how few media outlets had picked up the story about gold manipulation. Let me take you back a week. Last week, on Saturday, the Financial Times of London, the most widely read financial publication on the planet, published a story about gold manipulation that was in large part confirmed by an independent analyst firm who spent a considerable amount of time studying the operations of the price-fixing mechanism for gold and silver. In their report, they came to the conclusion that for well over a decade, the price of gold and silver has been manipulated. The researchers said that unusual trading patterns around the 3 p.m. London fix, when the afternoon fix is set, on a private conference call among 5 of the biggest gold dealers are a sign of collusive behavior and should be investigated. This paper was written by Professor Ross Metz of the Stern School of Business at New York University. Albert Metz is also a managing director at Moody's Investor Service. A quick Google search into gold manipulation turned up numerous respected publications that have all picked up on the story. Not only do we have the Financial Times, but we also have Bloomberg News, and now this weekend add the Business Report, and I wouldn't be at all shocked or amazed that the Wall Street Journal will actually break down at some point in time and be forced to print the story about gold manipulation, even though they've had this information for a substantial amount of time. As you may remember, many years ago, GATA ran a full-page ad in the Wall Street Journal exposing the fixing of the gold price. Numerous analysts on many occasions have attempted to get the Wall Street Journal to do an investigation into allegations of price manipulation. The list is long of those who have attempted to do this, from Bill Murphy over at GATA to Ted Butler to Eric Sprout from Sprout Asset Management, Gerald Celente, Jim Rickards, and yet the Wall Street Journal, pretty much like the Financial Times, killed the story. Let me share with you from the Business Report today. They're reporting on the London gold fix manipulated. The London gold fix, the benchmark used by miners, jewelers, and central banks to value the metal, may have been manipulated for a decade by the banks setting it, researchers now say. Unusual trading patterns around 3 p.m. In London, when the so-called afternoon fix is set on a private conference call between 5 of the biggest gold dealers, are a sign of collusive behavior and should be investigated. Rosa Metz, a professor at New York's University and the managing director at Moody's Investment Service, has written this in a draft research paper. The structure of the benchmark is certainly conducive to collusion and manipulation, and the empirical data are consistent with price artificiality, they say in the report, which has not yet been submitted for publication. It is likely that cooperation between participants may be occurring. The paper is the first to raise the possibility that the 5 banks overseeing the century-old rate, Barclays, Deutsche Bank, Bank of Nova Scotia, HSBC Holdings, and Societe Generale, may have been actively working together to manipulate the benchmarks. It also adds to pressure on the time to overhaul the way the rate is calculated. Authorities around the world already are investigating the manipulation of benchmarks from interest rates to foreign exchange, and are now investigating the $20 trillion gold market for signs of wrongdoing. Officials at the London Gold Market Fixing, the company owned by the banks that administer the rate, referred requests for comment to Societe Generale, which holds the rotating chairmanship of the group. Officials at Barclays Bank and HSBC and Societe Generale declined to comment on the report and the future of the benchmark. The spokesperson for the Bank of Nova Scotia also failed to respond to calls for comment. Mr. Metz of Moody's advises the European Union and the international organizations of securities commissioners on financial benchmarks in his 2008 paper entitled LIBOR Manipulation, helped uncover the rigging of the London interbank offered rate, which has led financial firms, including Barclays Bank and UBS, to be fined $6 billion in total. The study went back as far as 2004, and the report in the Business News says there's no obvious explanation as to why these patterns began in 2004 and why they were more prevalent in the afternoon fix and why prices tended to be downwards. This is the first attempt to uncover potentially manipulative behavior, and the results are concerning, Metz said. It's down to regulators to establish why there are such striking patterns, but banks have the means, motive, and opportunity to manipulate the fixing. Deutsche Bank said last month it would withdraw from the panel selling gold and silver fixings. The 5 banks that oversee the fixing of the gold and silver price have set up a steering committee and are about to appoint external advisors to consider reforms before European Union legislation on financial benchmark regulation and oversight come into force. This all according to Bloomberg News. As a lawyer would say to a jury when he has pretty much convinced them of the guilt or innocence of his client, always states, "Ladies and gentlemen, I rest my case." As far as the manipulation of gold and silver prices is concerned, ladies and gentlemen, I rest my case. Where the price of gold and silver could go after this is open for speculation, and there's going to be wide speculation, because accepting the fact that the current price of gold and silver is manipulated, would it be safe to assume that the powers that be collectively come to the agreement that in order to level the playing field, that a reset be put in place? In other words, using the Federal Reserve's own figures on the rate of inflation since 1980, the inflation-adjusted price for gold should be $2,400. Likewise, the inflation-adjusted price for silver should be $140. But then I'm sure someone's going to come out with the idea of, well, maybe we should use a different matrix in order to calculate what the official price of gold is. And let me say that if they decide against an inflation-adjusted price for the price of gold, and they actually go through the laborious task of assessing how much actual physical gold is still available, and based on dollars in circulation, you will come up with numbers that guys like Jim Sinclair have often been ridiculed for, by saying he believes the price of gold based on supply and demand, gold should be priced at $50,000. Before I leave you on this Sunday, I would also point your attention to a great column I found in realasset.com, and that is they name the top 5 gold commentators in America today. Now, these are living commentators. As they say, if they were to include those commentators that had passed away, there's no question that Ferdinand Lips, the Swiss banker who wrote the book Gold Wars, would definitely be on the list. However, those living commentators that it regards as the best in the business as far as gold commentary are concerned are Jim Sinclair, Ben Davis, Eric Sprout, James Turk, and Jim Ricketts. Without trying to sound like an alarmist in any way, shape, or form, I think the news events for the Sunday are stunning in their implications. And so with that, let me see if I can play any outgoing music. Yes, I can. So till the next time we meet on the Flipside, my friends, see you. Bye.